So as I've been going through kind of like the past few months, one of the aspects of my life or feelings that have been amplified is a lack of hope, um, or a lack of control, or lack of a right outlook on the future. And I've been really struggling with finding positive motivation to really do the things that I love, do the things that I know when I do, I help people a lot. And right now, really everything is a little bit tainted when it comes to the sense of why I'm doing it. And it really comes from a fear that if I don't keep doing the things and maintaining relationships or reaching out to people, having options, doing great work, then I'm not going to get what I need to feel satisfied in the future, or what is satisfying me right now is just to leave. It's like something that feels like I need to maintain my effort to maintain where I am right now. And if I don't put in that effort, then I'm going to suffer even more than I do right now. But I also, logically speaking, it could be at this point that I'm overextending myself and I'm actually allowing myself to really feel that hope. Because it's like, I was talking to someone the other day, and when you are the one that are always creating these events, then it is you that is being constantly rejected. Whereas if other people are making the events, then you are the one that is rejecting. So instead of getting, if rejection to and from are treated equal, you only reject once when someone asks you to do something or hang out or something like that. But when you plan it, you could get a bunch and amount of rejections from when you send it out to people. And just thinking about that, I can see why people don't reach out. I can see why I do want to reach out, because it's a sense of getting these people together. If I don't do it, then nothing will really happen. But at the same time, it's not just a sense of hanging out with people, it's the rejection itself that hurts. Because there's always that fear in the unknown. People can do it, can't do it. And a lot of the time, rightfully so, people are like, yeah, I want to, but I should be okay barring a few things. It's never 100% definite, and I understand that. But when it's not 100% definite, then it really plays, or at least for myself, really plays with my mind, thinking that, well, if they can flip on a moment's notice, whether maybe something better comes up, or they don't have that energy on that day, and when that happens, then they have an out. When I plan something, I don't have outs because I'm the one planning it. If I say no, everything falls apart. There's that pressure and onus to actually follow through, even when I don't feel like it. At the same time, though, people have the option of just rejecting last minute. So I do all these great things, but at the end of the day, I'm putting it's in the hands of others. Whereas if people were asking me to do stuff, then it would mean that I could, when I feel like it, say yes or no, and really, really take care of my feelings, take care of my emotions, take care of myself. It's one of the things when you're constantly reaching out, you're not taking care of yourself, and then you kind of lose hope. It's like, well, I'm putting out so much effort here that, and the return is still there, but it's not to the amount that you're putting out. It might be easier for me for a little bit I might find the hope in waiting for other people to respond to me and ask me to do things. But it's really interesting because I feel like I constantly have to do stuff to feel satisfied, to feel validated, and to get that hope. That I wonder what the graph is like is if I don't reach out to people, they start reaching out to me, would the hope build? Is there like that dreaded like no man's land? If like if I do have a little bit of reaching out, would that be better than always reaching out? Or if I don't reach out at all and people reach out to me, even though it could be less, would I have the same peace of mind or more hope? It's interesting to think about, and maybe I have to change up my game plan. But I think that just the idea of hope, like, it's really hard to, we are predisposed, if that's a word, to the amount of hope that we have through, where we come from, where we were raised. Just like any other feelings, hope is irrational. Well, I don't want to say irrational. That has a negative connotation, but it's definitely something that can't be logic. I can't feel like or I can't think that there's hope. I can feel that there's hope. And I just think to how I was raised and to where I played sports, not because I wanted to, but because that was chosen to me, because I was good at it. Like, if you're good at something, you do it. And just that overall sense of just the despair that was in the household, with my family. I don't think that my family has a lot of hope when it comes to everything being alright. If they fail, they're very much perfectionists, but at the same time, you can be perfectionist and accepting of oneself. I don't think they accepted themselves and need to be constantly improving to get that hope. I think that's one of the things that I'm struggling with because I wasn't taught it, was the feeling of being good enough even if you don't do anything. Like, I always feel like I have to good enough is an exchange for me. I feel like if I do great work, I feel good enough. If I do bad work, I don't feel good enough. That bar is set pretty high, to where the amount of times that I feel good enough and peaceful is, at least for the last 2 months, that's been maybe a few days. And that peace, that hopefulness that I am good enough, I am doing enough, that my work does have effect, positive effect on people. I think that's really difficult to really know if this lack of hope is in my control or not. I think about all the awards that I have in my room at home, where so many medals in volleyball, and trophies in tennis, and all these different things, like achievements, and it was the pressure was put on myself to do a lot of that good winning work, and because of that, when I went to university and stopped doing this competition, it was a sense of relief. But I think there's like a sense of purpose that's missing right now. But that's kind of off on a tangent. But when it comes to my family and how their effect and hope on me, it was essentially a loss to me. Felt like I wasn't good enough, and someone's got to win, someone's got to lose. It's a 50% or at some game, and I just think like if I don't feel good enough 50% of the time, I will feel bad. Let me rephrase. If I have events that make me feel bad about myself 50% of the time, events that make me feel good 50% of the time, the bad outweighs the good in the mind, and I'm just thinking what's the percentage that I do feel good about myself, even if it's 50-50. I think a lot of it is I don't have that sense of good enough, and that's kind of allows me to have a lack of hope. And I don't want to have a lack of hope. I want to feel motivated and feel like I'm doing meaningful work, but my mind is just really feeling like you could be doing so much more with your time, more, but you might be doing enough. But if you're always thinking about if you're doing more, then you're always not enough. That kind of like touches on like the ideas. Like, if you have more hope, do you think the future is going to be better than what it is now? Then you will work harder to make sure that that's a possibility. That's positive motivation. And right now, for me, it's negative motivation. Where it's like, if I don't work as hard, then my future is going to be worse off than what it is right now. And there's that feeling of pressure and lack of hope on that. So it's really that hope gives you energy. Or hope is energy. And if you don't have hope, it's very hard to get energy to go through the day, because your day, things are getting worse. No one wants to live in a world that's getting worse, especially when it's themselves that they're feeling is worse and not the people around them. And if you're gonna just feel like everything's gonna get worse, you don't want to stay in that reality. You want to kind of distance yourself from that. You want to cope. Some people do that with drugs. Some people do that with exercise, which is a good one. But some people, it's too big of a burden for that to happen, and they commit suicide. That's something that's always kind of weighed on my mind, because even though I haven't really had there's a spectrum of suicidal severity, where it's like the lowest part of it is just like, thinking about the idea of suicide. Hope everyone thinks about their own mortality a little bit. But then it goes from just thinking about it to thinking about ideas of suicide to ideation of suicide to planning of suicide to committing suicide. There's a few things in between. But I think on that spectrum, it's never been a plan. There has been some ideation in the past, and it always comes from a lack of control and hope in my life, where whatever situation I was in, I was feeling trapped, feeling like I didn't have a way out to change it. And for me, it feel like the where I had the least amount of hope. The days where I wanted to exist the least was after my first year, working at co-op, just right in COVID, where I was in a factory for 8 hours, then like an hour and 30-minute commute, getting back to a place with people I didn't like in a small, very small apartment with no one in Waterloo. And the sense of that I couldn't change it, couldn't quit the job because it was my co-op. I needed that credit. The sense of I was at this apartment which didn't have AC in the summertime and had people around that I didn't like. It was super hard, and just this sense of like I had no one to talk to. At that time, I really didn't have any friends to where I could just phone up and talk to, feel good about things. It was very much alone and trapped, and when you're alone and trapped, you don't have hope when there's no immediate way of changing your situation. And that's, for me, that was kind of the lowest point in my life, where I thought stuff was wrong with me when it came to my situation, emotions, all this stuff, with my family, getting really frustrated. It's like, I just, as my friend Tristan would say, I don't want to deal with this bullshit. Like, I really didn't. I just hated the situation I was in. I felt trapped. You feel trapped, you feel suicidal. So when it comes to that, that was kind of my lowest point. And I think to the people who do commit suicide, which I have no one that I know has attempted or thought about it. And it really just makes me think, how much more pain would I had to go through? How much lack of hope would I have needed for things to escalate further? How much or how little hope do people have? What's the threshold to where they do commit suicide? And I just think there's a lot of things where I don't really have comparisons to other people, to what they're going through, what I've gone through with sports and family. There's not that sense of they know what I'm going through, which can really reduce the hope. But it's really that sense of I don't know. I don't know if I would have a situation in my life that felt as hopeless as that summer after first year, which I guess that thinking about that gives me hope that if I can handle something at my lowest point in my life, I can handle something that is still really tough and really hard, but maybe just a bit above it, or above it. I think that's really, really interesting. It's giving me hope right now. But I guess what I'm doing, like a question that I had before this was, how can we find hope from the darkness that we're in? Like, how do we get out of a rut? Things are tough week, exhausted, things don't go your way, maybe a breakup. Breakups bring in a lot of dark feelings, dark emotions, a lack of hope. So like, how do we, like, from a breakup, how does one get hope back? And a lot of it is, if you're helping someone else with the same problems that you have, you are essentially helping yourself by proxy of them. And that brings a lot of hope. Well, when you help yourself, you help someone like you, it's like, oh, I'm not alone in this world. That's a better future. There must be more people out in the world that think and feel exactly like me. And I just think, like, it's like the amount of that I do reach out and stuff like this, where I talk to people outside the normal conversations, and I really try to reach myself. That is what really got me out of the dark place. But I was thinking to myself earlier, at the start of the semester, what is my plan for this friend, or what's the friend plan for this semester? A lot of it is like quantity. I want to find all these people and then later on make the selections. And I feel like I have so many people that I think my reach is a lot. And the sense of the reach, I have a lot of reach, but no one that is interested that can really phone on a dime and they would return my call, or that I would help them and above myself and they would help me above themselves. That's a sense of like the unconditional love in friendships and relationships. Is got one person which is better than zero, better than the first 18, 19 years of my life. It's that sense of, like, if I keep growing that number, the sense of someone's busy, you don't have to truly depend on them. You can depend on someone else. That, I think that just takes a pressure out of someone. It allows them to, it just takes out the pressure. And the sense that you could, if things don't go your way, someone's busy, you got someone else to fall on to, that's some good hope. You're able to, roll with the punches. The more you can roll with the punches, or feel like you can roll with the punches, the more that you feel hope, which is really interesting. But one of the things I was trying to think about is, like, how can we use hope as like a feedback loop? Like, I always try to think, like, how do we get our feedback loops running our way rather than the wrong way? Think about last night, trying to get to bed, but getting to bed a little late. But then, getting to bed late, I don't want to go to sleep on my phone. So I spent probably about 45 minutes longer before I went to bed than I wanted to because of that initial slip. And I think that one of the things is friends. Like, that's really the only place in my mind where I feel like I'm lacking in a sense. My job is tough in some circumstances, but I get to help with students, and that's great. But just like my relationships and impact that I have outside of that is a lot less. A lot less to where I want it to be. And how do you get more feedback when it comes to this? Go and invest time in friends so they can invest time in you. And I think that might be something to think about. It's like, who's investing the most time into me for who's giving me the most amount of return? You need to think about that, because if someone's a taker and you're just keep giving, they can drain you of your hope, and maybe someone's done. Maybe that's where I am right now, where collectively I'm getting drained of my hope. That's an interesting idea. And I wonder if I were to slow things down and take more time for myself, would I get more hope? Really interesting. But I kind of want to leave this with the idea of like trying to think back. When did I have the most hope in my life? And I could think back to my relationships where I was very, very hopeful. Everyone's hopeful, the honeymoon phase, weird relationships. Other than like the relationships I've had in the past, when it comes to hope, where did I hope for the most? I enjoyed badminton. The most out of all the sports I've played, because it was my sport that I wanted to play, not someone else's idea or my dad's idea to play that sport and excel. It was my sport. And I think about the times where I were in tournaments and I felt less pressure to succeed. More those people around me were much more relationship driven, friendship driven than competition driven. Just that sense of more calmness was really good. But I always feel a lot of hope at the start of semesters, because new people around probably want some of them want to reach out and make new friends. And when it comes to the end of the semester, hope drains. But there isn't really a case in my life where I'm just like able to relax and life is good. I don't remember ever there being a time that wasn't forced or I didn't have to work at it. But yes, actually, Summit 700 in 2021. I think that was the most amount of hope that I felt in. There was a sense of calmness. There's so many people that were there. Like 16 of us, maybe 10. No, like 16. It was like 10 of us all in and to this cottage, and just the sense that I had something to look forward to find friends, be with them, and feel complete was really good. And I want to get back to that sense of, how do they spend quality time with people, not just for a few hours a day, but for actually a whole day. That's where I want to be, and I think that's where the general grip of hope can lie. But the overall sense right now for me is the amount of control I have in my friendships and relationships is a lot less. And I think it's time for me to take back control, do less, so that I can really breathe easy and be centered and have a much more peaceful mind. But it's a work in progress, and there's remnants of a solution to this. But it's always been a work in progress, so we'll see.